Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, and today I want to talk to you not about Kill Team, but another skirmish game from Games Workshop. Yes, that's right, as you obviously know if you're on this video, it is Necromunda and the Ash Wastes expansion, additional core game, entirely new game. I don't know, because I have actually only ever played a single game of Necromunda. So luckily, I have someone with a little bit more experience and expertise in not just the rules of Necromunda, but also the history, etc. with me. Would you like to say hello?
Hi, I'm James. You might know me from Glass's Discord or from the Necromunda Underhive Discord. I also run an Instagram called Sector417. I'm a super huge Necromunda fan, so I'm really excited to talk about Ash Waste today.
That's right. James there is going to be the one telling you all of the actual information about Ash Wastes, whereas I am going to be, as I like to term it, the useful idiot. I do know a few select key things about Necromunda, but honestly not enough to review an entire Ash Wastes box. So as a new player, I want to know what exactly Ash Wastes is, and hopefully, because let's be honest, Necromunda doesn't have the largest community, a lot of my community will be new to Necromunda as well, and so I will be asking the questions you want to know. First things first though, of course, a like, subscribe, a comment, all of that good stuff would really help, and hey, if you could share this around, that'd be awesome too. Let's get straight into it. I really want to know if this Ash Waste, because it comes with a new core rulebook, is it actually a new game? Have they updated anything? Or have they just added a vehicle system to the already existing rules? Is this a good place to jump into if I don't know the rules? Or if I do know the rules, do I have to relearn the game, etc, etc? James, what's up with the Ash Waste core rulebook?
No, all the rules are fundamentally the same. So everything you know about fighters and activations is the same. They've just added vehicle rules, and the vehicles work a lot like the fighters you're used to. Okay,
so it's literally just the existing rules plus some new diagrams and examples, and they've included vehicles. Let's say I'm an existing Necromunda player. What's there for me? Why am I picking up the Ash Wastes box?
Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff in Ash Waste, even if you're not interested in vehicles, but the main thing is actually the campaign. And you could use that in the other zones, like the Sector Mechanicus or the Zone Mortalis if you wanted to, but it would take a little bit of work. There isn't much else, so it might not be something you need to buy if you're not interested in vehicles, but there is something there for you if you are interested in just new content.
Okay, well, as someone that doesn't know much about Necromunda, my understanding is that it's all about the campaigns. And of course, you can run your own campaign, but it's also nice to have a bit of guidance, so I'll take that as a good thing, I guess. Now let's talk about the actual vehicles themselves and the mounts, because my understanding, again, as a noob, is that a mount, is it literally just you move a little bit further? Or is there more to it than that? And then likewise, a vehicle, I've seen a lot of stuff on Warcom about there's more dice to roll, and there's collisions, and you can run people over, and all of this crazy stuff. And as I read the book myself, I didn't know what was new and what was old. So, James, hit me with the mounts rules first. What are they?
So, mounts are war gear. They count as one of your fighter's 3 weapons, and they can't be used with unwieldy weapons. They give your fighter the mounted condition. The only one we have right now is the Dustback Hellamite. That is the mount that the Ash Waste Nomads prospects have. So these are, unlike vehicles, are actually meant to be used in any setting, so you can use them in your Zone Mortalis or Sector Mechanicus games as well. In addition, if you have a fighter that has a mount, they can have a second fighter card without it, but that can be the only difference. This doesn't require them to have Tools of the Trade or any of the other special rules that normally allow fighters to have multiple fighter cards.
Okay, sounds pretty cool, and certainly I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with outside of just the Dustback Hellamites. And I'm really excited for the idea of every single faction getting not only a vehicle, as we assume they're going to get, but also mounts. And I'm also wondering if they're going to be updating the Van Saar hoverboard thing to be a mount as well. Interesting. Anyway, tell me about vehicles, because I've got no idea.
So vehicles work a lot like other fighters. You add them to your gang the same way, and they have a stat line and a fighter card. The big difference is they're not a single individual fighter, they're a vehicle. Their stat line is also a little different. So they have a movement value and they have a toughness value, but they have 3 toughness values: front, side, and rear. And that is all depending on where they're being shot from. If they're being shot from the front, they use their front value and so on. They also have a handling value. This is where you get into the ability to control the vehicle and how well the driver works with the vehicle. So that's used a lot like initiative is used in the game now, but also is used for loss of control tests. In the game, a vehicle works just like it does, like a fighter does. It has an activation and it gets to make 2 actions. And the actions are all the things you normally would expect. You could have something like move and shoot. You could have just stand still and shoot. You can aim and fire, all that kind of stuff. That's as long as you're able to move. If you become stalled, then you have to use those special actions to restart your engine and try to get back in the fight. And finally, if you're destroyed, or they call it wrecked. And that's just like going out of action, but unlike a normal fighter where you remove the model, they actually recommend that you leave the model on the board to block line of sight and be part of the terrain so it affects the battle from there on out. The vehicle rules are meant to be used in the ash wastes on the open boards, but they're not necessarily required to be used that way. Some of the missions allow vehicles, some of them don't. And the thing to know about the vehicles is that you can use them anywhere as long as both players agree. So they have a lot of different new things they've added to the game that's really interesting. Unfortunately, right now, the only vehicle we have to work with is the Quad Runner that belongs to the Orlocks, and it's a relatively simple vehicle. So we don't know how all the other vehicles are going to work once they come out, but we do know that they have other things that aren't in this book, like upgrades and war gear. For instance, there's a mention of a searchlight and special tires, but none of those rules are in this book. So we have to kind of wait until we see what else there is. In addition, there's some rules in there about how to transport things on a vehicle. If the vehicle doesn't have transport spots, people might fall off. The fighters in the game now treat the vehicles just like they would terrain, so they can move all over them, climb on top, and so on.
Okay, you know, the little bit at the end there about how vehicles are actually they're just terrain that people can still actually just move on does sound kind of cool, and I am imagining a lot of train heist-like scenarios. However, let's move away from the rules for a moment, because we could lose ourselves in rules forever, but there's a fundamental question which is so hard to get across when you just talk rules, which is it good? Right? Is it good? Is it actually fun to play? Could I take whatever these new rules are and say, you know what, these are cool vehicle rules, I'm going to play Gorkamorka? Like, is it fun?
I think the new rules are really great. I think that the vehicle rules are really elegant in how they integrated them into the current core rules without upsetting anything. In fact, they're mostly backwardsly compatible with any other books you might have because they tell you the difference between a fighter and a vehicle. And since they didn't previously mention model, you don't have to worry about certain things interacting incorrectly. And it seems like they've covered most of their bases as far as what will work and what won't. In fact, I think that if they wanted to, they could take these core rules, put in the rules for orcs and their vehicles into a book and just release it as Gorkamorka, 2022. The game is exactly what you'd want from a modern take on those kinds of games that we had back in the 90s. I think it's going to be good for the game. I think it's going to be really fun to play. I'm really excited to try some Ash Waste games now that the rules are out and people are going to have vehicles. I'm still waiting for the rules for custom vehicles, obviously. We don't have any of that yet, and we're hoping they'll announce something at Warhammer Fest next week. But until then, we just kind of have to make do. Not that we can't make up our own rules. That's a big part of Necromunda.
I mean, hey, good rules that are fun to play is always a good addition to anything, so good, cool. Now, again, I'm not an experienced Necromunda player, so I actually have a final question, which is just super open-ended. Is there anything that I, as someone not in the know, hasn't asked that either new players or experienced players kind of need to know?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that this is just the beginning of the Ash Waste setting. There aren't all the rules for every vehicle in there. There aren't any rules for custom vehicles. This is just the rule book, but there's going to have to be more supplements later on that have the rules for specific vehicles and how to make custom vehicles and all the things we want to have a fully fleshed out Ash Waste campaign. I have faith that they're going to release that stuff, and we might even hear about it next week at Warhammer Fest, but we just don't know yet. If you're a brand new player and you own nothing else yet, this is a good box set to start with because it has the core rules and it has 2 gangs that you can play right out of the box and plenty of terrain to play Ash Wastes. If you have an existing campaign going, you don't need to rush to grab this unless you want everything in the box or if you're afraid of missing out on something. But there is something here for new and old players, and for experienced players like me, the vehicle rules are a huge addition that adds a lot of cool stuff.
Okay, well, you know what? That's me convinced. Here's what I'm going to do. I've got some funky sci-fi looking cyberpunky bases. I'm going to do my nomads in an urban camo scheme. I'm going to do my Van Star in a cool kind of white and blue scheme. And I'm going to do my Orlocks in, I don't know, another scheme. Probably blue, because that's their thing. They're going to be wearing jeans. Why not? And then, of course, I'm going to be doing my Cawdor in, are you ready? Yellow. What can I say? I'm a little bit avant-garde in that way. Anyway, James, thank you so much for running me through this stuff. It's been so helpful. There was no way I was going to be able to digest an entire new game in like a week and be able to say anything of value in a mechanical games rules sort of sense. Obviously, I could have done some hobby stuff, but who cares about that? Oh, literally everybody on the internet. Good point. So, James, where can we find you?
Hey, Glass, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me to talk about Ash Waste today. Necromunda is one of my favorite games, and I just love talking about it. If you want to keep talking about it with me, you can probably find me on Discord at all hours of the day talking about it, or you can follow my Instagram, which is Sector417, where I post tons of photos of Necromunda models all the time, and I'll be adding more content of all different types in the near future. Thanks.
Well, there you have it, folks. Sector417, but only after you've liked, subscribed, and leave a comment here, of course. And most importantly, if you do actually want some more Necromunda content, do let me know, because I do intend, I wasn't lying, I do intend to start actually playing some Necromunda, as well as everything else I'm starting playing, perhaps some comparative reviews. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've had a good day, and continue to have a good day. Goodbye.